how do I ensure that the quality of the egg that I'm producing and the quality of the sperm and the quantity, how do I ensure that it's as robust and significant as possible? If you don't have your health, what do you have?
You are a functional medicine doctor.
Join us as we blend modern and ancient wisdoms to be well now. Takes two to tango, baby.
Last time, it does take two to tango.
Yeah.
And last time I checked, it's about to be baby making season.
Yeah, we're almost there. Almost hibernation time.
Well, I was born in June, so I was probably conceived in the winter months. Mm-hmm. Hey, this is the Be Well Now podcast.
I'm the late May, baby.
You're late, exactly. Yeah. We know what happens. This is why we're here. Not the subject that I pitched, but you're the doctor, Dr. Rod Dummar. I'm one of your patients. I'm a curious human, and we have this podcast now 70, 80 episodes deep. Hey, speaking of fertility.
Yeah.
Why in the heck are we doing a podcast about this? It seemed like something you were inspired to talk about, and I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, fertility is something that we've helped patients with over our career and in this practice. And a lot of patients focus so much on just the connection of the egg and the sperm, right? But there's a whole lot more to it than that goes into actually getting that perfect dance to occur. And so what I want to do is give some people some tools, some tips and ideas of when they should be setting the stage to think about how to help themselves and how to benefit their own physiology so that when they're ready to partake in that dance, they're ready to dance.
Such a miracle, and some people it happens by accident and others have no problem, but those who have struggled with fertility, hey, it's very real to them, and that's why I'm sure we're here to try to deliver education. So can we get right to the meat and bones of how to help people? What you said it early on was it takes two to tango. So it's not just up to the woman to...
Absolutely. In our traditional medicine system, it's very focused on the female. It's always, and I think part of that is perhaps because the woman feels a significant amount of pressure to conceive, a significant amount of pressure to get pregnant. And in consulting with a lot of women as well, they feel broken. They'll feel like their body is broken if they're not able to conceive when they want to. And it's very frustrating. And so it's not just a female thing. It does take two to tango. And so we wanted to be able to draw and shed some light as well on the importance of both participants in this action, taking steps towards improving their likelihood of getting pregnant.
All right, give me those steps. Let's do it.
All right.
News we can use.
The first thing is, the question is when do we start getting ready, right? When do we prepare? When do we prepare for the big dance? My daughter recently went to homecoming, and a lot of people had homecoming in September, October-ish time, right? Is when homecoming usually occurs. And so there's a big dance, and there usually you will ask somebody, happens weeks in advance. And then there's this process of getting the dress, and then what's my hair? What am I going to do with my hair and my nails? And all of this thing, all of this process beforehand goes into, and this thought goes into the actual day. And then for the person who asked, it's like, what's the plan? What are we doing that day? What's our steps throughout this day? How long is the date going to be? And there's a significant amount of planning just for the date.
So this is
day.
So this is the metaphor of the dance. Even I had a therapist when we were first pregnant with my first son. She's like, we weren't married at the time, and she was like, how would you rather have someone come into your house for dinner? Mm-hmm. Would you rather prepare for it, get the ingredients, clean the house, set the table, have them come in, or just knock on your door when you're not even expecting them?
Right.
And it was just an idea of like setting you up for success. Now, we hadn't gotten pregnant, so I'm probably mixing metaphors, but I like the idea of really intentionally setting this up. Now,
absolutely,
I just mixed a lot of metaphors because if you get pregnant, you get pregnant. But
and that's okay. But that's part of the process. It's also part of the frustration for a lot of women, right? Because they look around and they say, "Oh my gosh, I don't see that woman is doing anything. She doesn't see anything for her personal health." And honestly, some women don't, and they get pregnant. Right. So explain that. That's the question, right? Explain that. Well, whatever's happening within her physiology actually supported that process to occur. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't always mean that infant is coming into the very best situation that it can, or under the best circumstances nutritionally that it can. So there are things that we need to do before we even begin the process of saying, I want to conceive. And that is, how do I ensure that the quality of the egg that I'm producing and the quality of the sperm and the quantity, right? And how do I ensure that it's as robust and significant as possible, so that when we have that matchup, when that link takes place, that the sperm are going to be appropriately able to swim and compete and get to the egg, and then also be able to implant themselves.
It's 5 minutes in, we haven't given them any tips.
Yeah.
I'm begging you. Give me something. What can we do?
Again, here's the key. Here's the key. I want you to understand, first of all, just how important this process is. I want you to understand it starts before. It starts before. The sooner, if you have in your mind an inkling, male or female, if you think in your life, I want to be a father someday, or I want to be a mother someday, right? That means you want to conceive. Now, maybe you want to adopt, and that's okay too. That's a great way to do it. But if you want to do it through conception, if you want to do it through that process, then that's the moment you begin preparing for it. Because it's in your DNA, the DNA that you're actually implanting and creating. The sperm and the egg actually have DNA particle, it has DNA encoded in it, and they meet up, and your DNA contributes to the building of this new being. And so if you there are things called methyl factors, methylation. A lot of people have talked about and taught about methyl factors and methylation nowadays. Methyl factors or methylation actually contributes in a significant way to the health of your DNA, but also contributes to the health of your offspring. They've done a number of studies where they found that individuals whose mothers and parents consumed methyl factors, quality methyl factors, which is food basically from farm to table, as much whole food, vegetables as you can, green, leafy greens, right? Colorful fruits and foods as well. If you eat these methyl factors and consume them in high amounts in your diet, you're going to be giving your child and your offspring the very best opportunity to thrive and survive in the environment. So these kids whose mothers consumed higher amounts of methyl factors had lower incidences throughout their lifetime of immune issues like diabetes, chronic diseases like arthritis and degenerative diseases. So they had throughout their lifetime lower instances of those things. So if you want to project health to your future generations, it starts before you conceive, right?
That makes sense.
Okay, so that's what we want to do, contribute our very best to the creation of this being. And how do you do that? Again, you say, okay, I want to choose methyl factors. I want to improve, make sure I'm getting proper B vitamins, especially when you start to conceive. You want folate, you want B12, you want zinc for men, and selenium especially, because zinc and selenium play a significant role in those in the gonads.
So is that just something I can get in a pill somewhere, like a supplement? You
can. You can also get it again through whole foods. B vitamins generally we don't get enough of in our foods, and so we have to supplement them. But you want to make sure they're methylated B vitamins when you do that.
And I imagine you consult couples who are trying to get pregnant, and you probably have some herbal formulas here if they're curious.
We do. We have preconception herbal formula. We also have Testo M that helps with improving the quality, the quantity, and the activity of the sperm and the ovum themselves. So we do have a variety of different herbals that have been created specifically for fertility.
Because I'm the kind of guy who wants to learn that someone knows what they're talking about, and then at some point I'm like, all right, I trust you. I'd like to consult you, or in my other business, like purchase from you or whatever. But like if they're serious, like I believe Dr. Dummar knows what he's talking about. They can reach out to your office. You guys can
absolutely. We can
even if it's digital. If
we can create a plan for them. Yeah, we can create a plan for them. We can order labs regardless of where you are in the country. We can evaluate things like that. Now, and that brings us to the other topic. It's
community health and wellness. How do I find you real quick?
chwheber.com.
Okay. All right.
A little quicker on it today, so that was
back
good.
To your regular scheduled programming. I'm just trying to keep us online. All right.
For sure.
Continue on.
So another thing is metabolic health, or let's maybe go strictly right now to blood sugar regulation in the body. Infertility issues. mothers with PCOS, that's one of the leading indicators or leading issues for infertility is polycystic ovarian syndrome. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, 40 to 50% of patients actually, it's caused as a result of insulin resistance or blood sugar dysregulation. So you really need to look at how well your body is utilizing sugars. And so if your blood sugar is dysregulated and you are pre-diabetic or diabetic, you have a significant issue or a significant hurdle to overcome to achieve ideal
Men or
fertility.
women?
Both.
And yet the irony or the paradox or the frustration out there is I'm sure people will look around and be like, this couple, they're probably pre-diabetic or whatever. You could probably make judgments. That's not cool. But like you could see people who you think, hey, they don't look very healthy.
Yeah.
And they're getting pregnant. How is that even fair? So anyway,
Yes.
I know that's the frustrating part of all this is
we don't have the greatest explanation. Those things happen. And that's biological diversity. And there is biological diversity. And there are certain people who detoxify at higher rates, or they detoxify metals, heavy metals, sometimes better than others, for a variety of different reasons. There are certain people who detoxify medications at higher rates, so they have they don't have a significant of an influence or impact in their bodies. So some people are like, yeah, I take that medication, it does nothing for me. Other person right next to them is like, I take a portion, a very small amount of it, and knocks them out, right? Or it gets right to it. So yeah, we are all different and physiologically diverse. But the one thing that is unique about us is that we all live in the same environment, similar environments, right? We all live on the earth. That's one thing. And we know that we all have access to these compounds that are available to us on earth. Okay, so that's similar for all of us. So we can access antioxidants. We can access all of these foods, these methyl factors. Those are things that we can similarly access that are going to contribute to our body in a beneficent way, that is going to help us to improve essentially the health of our offspring throughout their life. Like if we improve the quality of our diet now, and we give that, we'll pass it on through our DNA that we give to the development of a living being. We pass it on to them. Okay? This is epigenetics. This is the idea of epigenetics as well, that we have the ability to influence the genetic profile throughout life of our offspring.
Based on the decisions that we make. So blood sugar woes in pregnancy, you talk about hormone imbalance, poor egg and sperm quality, increased risk of miscarriage. Like, let's talk about that.
So if you're not paying attention to your blood sugar, or you know that you have a blood sugar dysregulation
Talking
issue,
about pre-diabetic, diabetic, like
that's exactly where we are.
Blood sugar is very confusing for
if
people.
your hemoglobin A1C is dancing around, if it's dancing around 5.7 and higher, if that's your hemoglobin A1C, if it's 5.7 or higher, then you need to really be cautious and take these instructions to heart, right? Because what you're in a situation of, it's a pre-diabetic case. So if you're 6 or higher, it's even more. It's like, okay, I need to really buckle in. I've worked with patients that are 11, 12, 13 on their hemoglobin A1C. That's full-on diabetic. So what are things that you can do? Well, stay away from seed oils, stay away from dyes, flavorings, additives, stay away from all of the chemical ingredients that are in foods. And so typically what that is in is our processed, boxed, canned items. So if you can begin to go and move your diet as much as possible to the produce section and begin eating real food, local, raw, organic, if possible, then you're going to be promoting a higher level of health. So your sperm quality is going to improve, your sperm quantity is going to improve. And let's talk about men for just a moment here. Since the 1970s, here's an interesting thing. Since 1970, in the 1970s, Europe and the United States had 735 known chemicals that were allowed to be utilized in the manufacturing process of their foods. Okay? Europe and the United States. In in 2016 is when they measured it most recently again. United Kingdom and Europe, still 750. The United States, 10,000. 10,000 known chemicals that they're allowed to utilize within the manufacturing of our foods. So if we can pull away from those chemicals cause neuroinflammation, they cause degeneration to our tissues, and they also will cause inflammation at our DNA level, right? The level of our DNA and even our mitochondria. We're having a significant amount of people contributing, like with fatigue and inability, like they just walk around feeling tired all day long, this chronic fatigue, but they're like, I've changed my diet. I don't know what to do here. And their cells are inflamed, their DNA and their mitochondria are they're dysfunctional.
So what do they do about that?
So what they need to do is they need to alter their diet, and then they need to say, okay, well, how do we get into specifically healing the cells so that these new cells that are being produced, blood cells, by the in our stem cells, and when they're being produced, we need them to be produced as healthy and robust as possible so that they're not exposed to all of these inflammatory chemicals. So your hormone imbalance, so like insulin is going to cause inflammation. If you have inflammation throughout the blood, throughout your blood and throughout your body, then your production of your sperm, your semen is going to be disrupted. It's going to be interfered with, right? And so if that occurs, then what you're contributing when you're attempting to conceive is essentially weakened, disabled, and potentially DNA defected sperm.
So there's a lot that we can do. I think getting a blood test and having you analyze it, what I'm talking about, right, is a good stuff, because people might be like, how do I know if I have any of this stuff?
Yes.
Right. That's not a small thing to get your levels tested, but how important is that? Just so you have a baseline of where am I?
So metabolic health is the key. Our metabolic health is the key for understanding where we are and what we need to do, right? From a more specific physiological place. So we can draw your labs, look at all the organs, evaluate the inflammatory markers, and see what kind of approach we need to take to get you to the next step, to the next stage, so that you can be ready to conceive.
Like if you're a couple, would you want that for the man and the woman, just to know where we're at?
We do it for both.
Okay.
When I work with couples, it's both. You need to come in together. You both need to be ready. It's not a his or her. It's a his and hers, right?
And you've had success.
Oh, 100%.
Like this is not just, you're not like...
We've worked with several couples. In fact, this was maybe 13, 14 years ago. It was maybe even 15 years ago, one of the first couples that I worked with in private practice for fertility. And this is when I created an herbal formula specifically for him to increase sperm motility, quality, and quantity, right? So that's what I wanted them swimming really well. I wanted them to be robust and strong, and I wanted there to be a whole bunch of them. So we doubled the concentration of his sperm in 2 weeks with a herbal formula that we put him on. And I use that herbal formula today to help with men's health in a variety of different ways. But yes, we have a variety of herbals, but also acupuncture. We'll love to utilize acupuncture because it will work through the nervous system to stimulate the brain to have an impact on end organs. And so oftentimes when we have had chronic exposure to inflammation, we're dealing with neuroinflammation, right? So we need to have excitation. We need to have oxygenation and blood flow to the brain, especially to specific areas of the brain. And interesting thing is, if we're talking about blood sugar dysregulation or diabetes, prediabetes again, there have been a number of studies coming out and equating dementia, Alzheimer's, and the inflammation that we see occur there and the breakdown in neurology that occurs there. We're calling it type 3 diabetes. That's what we're starting to call it. So this should be a wake-up call to a lot of people. If you want to reduce your onset and your likelihood of developing dementia and Alzheimer's, which are being called, these type of neurological conditions are being called type 3 diabetes, which means you have a significant amount of inflammation contributing to the neurology. That's coming because of the blood sugar dysregulation, the metabolic dysfunction in your body. So get yourself metabolically healthy. Check your labs. Make sure that you understand where your liver is, where your thyroid is. Have an understanding of where all your inflammatory markers are, and then let's put together a plan. Acupuncture can help calm that down. It helps to balance the autonomic nervous system. It works specifically on the nerves and the brain to calm the inflammation. So it's only
been around for thousands of years. It
just keeps working for some reason, right?
Because you see this stuff online. Does acupuncture actually work? It's like, if you're at a point where you're frustrated and things aren't working out for you, you'll try anything. If you're at that point, if you're just logic, and I know there's a lot of studies, but I remember when I first learned about acupuncture, I looked at some of these videos and it was like, whoa, there's just no scientific evidence that it does anything. It's like, just try acupuncture, man.
Yeah.
It if nothing else, it's just relaxing.
Well, and
patient, as a non-expert, I'm like, it just feels good.
You may have heard my explanation before too, but when it comes to like scientific research with acupuncture, this is essentially what I like to say to people. It's like, okay, you're talking about a randomized clinical controlled trial, which when you look at most randomized clinical controlled trial, double blind, right? It's like, first of all, like, you need to really make a really strong argument to me that is reflective of actual integration in nature, like the way we actually integrate in nature and the way people actually do things.
What do you mean?
It's not reflective of the way life actually functions. You isolate when you do these studies, randomized clinical controlled double-blind studies. Oftentimes it's isolated to a very specific unilinear. It's like, okay, we're going to study this specific thing, right? And so then we get rid of all of these other parameters so we can only focus on one little thing. Well, how many people have in their life all of these other parameters eliminated? They don't. It doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. So if you want to actually have a real study, like with real robustness, what you want is a whole bunch, like thousands of case studies, thousands of cases reported over and over and over again on specific measurements, right? And those thousands of cases over time are actually way more robust and way more powerful than a randomized clinical controlled trial double-blind study.
It is all connected, right? It's systems biology. It's the way you work on medicine is if something's going on here, well, what's going on downstream? And I really believe in that. And I think folks at home, hopefully it resonates with them. I know we have a very busy clinic here. We got to wrap this podcast up because you're a busy guy.
Sure.
What have we not hit on so far?
So I think, diet is really the key. Acupuncture is something that we really recommend for everybody. And then getting your labs drawn, checking your metabolic health, and getting you on a good herbal supplementation plan. That really is the ticket when it comes down to it. And I think that we've actually covered as well as we've needed to this idea that it's not just a female issue. Fertility is not just about the female. It's also about you, the man.
For the men out there focusing on whole foods,
whole foods, exercise, diet, right? It's like these are the things that if just by doing a number of push-ups, resistance exercises, you can actually increase your testosterone. So men, we know from the 1970s, right? We talked about the difference between the 1970s and now when it comes to chemicals in our foods. Well, from the 1970s to now, we've been reducing by 1% in testosterone culturally, like our entire culture each year. And now I'm hearing that we're losing 2% at a rate of 2%. So if we're losing and decreasing the overall amount of testosterone in men by that amount, if that's the rate that we're losing, and we want to contribute to healthy sperm, and to fertility, we need to do a significant amount of things, exercise. We need to improve our vitamin and mineral intake. We need to make sure that our nutrition is up to speed, quality nuts and seeds, getting the fats, the amino acids, right? All of the quality fats and a sufficient amount of protein so that we can actually be producing and building, have the building blocks to build the things that we need to build in our body.
The journey's never over. As humans, no matter whatever happens, you'll probably never be satisfied, and life will always require hard work, and there's all these other things. But But if you can conceive, it can change your life in a really meaningful way. So
Absolutely.
obviously this is a big thing to solve. But I feel like
This
we're
is,
always
and
trying.
we could say a whole lot more on this.
I feel like we're always trying to
but-
solve something and then everything will be fine, right? But this is a life-changing. If you can unlock this for somebody, it brings so much purpose and meaning to my life that, you know, getting the labs done through your office has changed my life, because I'm always on the journey. I'm not there. I'm not healthy, but like I'm healthier than I was. And so it's like understanding where you are so you know how to get there, because there's so much confusing information. What's the best vitamin to take? And da da da. It's like you don't know where to.
You'll find all sorts of advertisements. So we have this blend of 5 ingredients, and we have this blend of 6 mushrooms, and we have this blend of all these different things, right?
It's like, mushrooms, man.
It's like everybody wants to tell you that their thing is absolutely the best, and you should be taking it every day and copious amounts of it, right? So I don't want anybody to be taking the same thing every single day unless it's specifically prescribed, and unless they specifically know they're trying to influence an analyte on their labs. Like, we need to know numbers wise and have objective evidence. We're attempting to change this. That's why you're taking it every day. Otherwise, everything else should just be food, like grazing. It's like, wow, I found some berries today. Oh, today I found, I killed a squirrel. Or today I did these different things. So thinking about like Paleolithic man, right? Like, how would I be living? Just grazing, foraging, maybe planting some food, right, to grow. And it's like, that's going to come at different times. You're not going to be eating the same thing every single day. So you really need to be honing in on what your body and your physiology is calling for right now. And then also realizing that longevity is all about having a little bit of here, a little bit of there, a little bit here, a little bit there. And that should be enough for our bodies to have vibrant, full health and to contribute to building a new life and being.
Well, that almost makes me want to point them to this podcast, which
right here
is right here.
Like and subscribe. Thank you very much.
Namaste, everybody.
Namaste.